Greetings, all, and welcome to Living Once Twice, the YouTube edition. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. If you are new to the Living Once Twice movement, I want to thank you for checking out this video and also introduce myself. My name is Justin. I am a dream and wellness coach, content creator, and personal adventure junkie. On the Living Once Twice podcast, each season we bring on inspiring guests who share their amazing stories. We talk about remarkable science and also useful strategies to help you build the momentum you need to take action towards designing a life that you are passionate about living. Before I get into this topic today, I want to remind you, please subscribe so that you are notified when the next video drops. Also, check us out and follow us on Instagram at Living Once Twice or visit the Living Once Twice website for more content updates. So for this video, I'm going to build upon the previous one in which I talked about embracing failing forward. This is a concept that came from episode five's guest, entrepreneur and cultural influencer Terri Lomax, who talked about the art of embracing the unknown, the fear of making a mistake when it comes to the pursuits that are outside of our comfort zone. And Terri talked about how this is the necessary mindset that you and I need to adopt as we really bring to life our making our visions become our reality. And I want to go deeper into the whole art of embracing the fear that just it comes with the territory of once again going towards and for our pursuits. And I want to offer one of my all time favorite exercises when it comes to fear, and that is the fear setting exercise. This is an exercise that was created and inspired by the great Tim Ferris, and it's rooted in the ancient Stoic philosophy, which I find so fascinating, and more specifically, the ancient Stoic philosopher Seneca, who offers this very powerful quote, which is, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." And I want to repeat that again so it just sinks in. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Who cannot relate to that quote? The pre-concluded scenarios that we draw upon that prevent us from speaking up, from expressing our opinions, from pursuing our deepest desires, or taking a chance and betting on ourselves. So Tim explains in this really impactful TED Talk how Seneca spoke of what's called praemonitato malorum. And praemonitato malorum is the premonition of evils or troubles that may lie ahead. So, with that type of wiring in mind, in which we draw these pre-concluded scenarios, he offers this exercise that he uses and that you and I can use to once again address and analyze our fears that prevent us from taking action. Very simple exercise. All you need is a piece of paper, and on that piece of paper, you're going to draw three columns. And in column one, you're going to write define. In column two, you're going to write prevent. And in column three, you're going to write repair. And I'm going to explain what each of those three columns represents. So in the defined column, this is where you want to list out every fear that you have that is preventing you from taking action in whatever area of life it might be. So let's use career, for example. And maybe you're thinking that you want to leave your job so that you could go travel, or maybe you want to leave your job so that you could pursue a different opportunity. So in that defined column, write out all of the fears that are holding you back. Maybe it is, well, will I have money to support myself, to pay my bills, to buy food? Maybe it is the fear of, well, if I leave my job, will I find another opportunity? Or if I find another opportunity, what if I don't like it? So list out all of the fears, and you kind of get the point there. So as you define your fears, Tim gives the recommendation. Maybe you want to list out 10 to 20, but it's up to you. If you only come with five, that's equally perfect for this exercise. You then want to move to the prevent category. So you've listed out your fears. Now it's time for you to really start to put on your thinking cap. And for every fear, every scenario that you listed out, write down what can do to prevent that from happening or decrease its likelihood. So let's stick with that example of leaving your current job. And so if you are worried about money, well, maybe you save up money now to build up an emergency fund so that you have money for 6 months and 9 months, 12 months, whatever it might be. If you are worried about not liking the opportunity, well, maybe before you leave, maybe you volunteer to get exposure to something that's very similar, or even informational interview people who are currently in that field to gain some perspective, right? So now that you've started to take action by brainstorming around your fears and solutions to them, brainstorming around the worst case scenario, it brings us to the third column, which is repair. So when it comes to the repair column, this is all about if that worst case scenario was to happen, what could you do? What would you do to bounce back? Or who could you reach out to for help? So if you were to leave your job and you didn't have money, again, that's the worst case scenario. You could apply for part-time work, maybe find a full-time job to help you rebuild. If you were struggling to even find a new opportunity, you could once again reach out to your network and they could help you and support you with finding leads as you once again rebuild yourself. As Tim talks about, you and I really have to ask ourselves this very important question, which is, have other people done this? Have other people figured this out? And the chances are yes. You and I would not be the first person to do something when it comes to like taking some of these risks that we're fearful of, and we certainly won't be the last either. And essentially what I have found out as I've even applied this activity to my own life, and I believe you will find out as well, that as you define your fears, you write out what you could do to prevent them, what you could do to decrease their likelihood. As long as you are alive and healthy and well, you'll survive. You will be okay and able to bounce back. Life will continue on. And let's be honest with ourselves. How often when we create that worst case scenario in our mind does it actually play out, right? So as I want to wrap up this episode, there's a couple things I want to make sure that I emphasize that Tim stresses when it comes to fear setting, which is also to think about the cost of inaction. So not making a decision, not taking any action, remaining status quo, and what could be the impact of that. So ask yourself, like, what would be the sacrifice for not going for it? Would it cost you regret? Would it cost you feeling still stuck and that you're not living an authentic life? Would it even cost you your health? Those are the things that you want to think about. Those are the things that you want to consider. And the cost of inaction doesn't just remain with you solely. What about the cost of inaction to the people that you love? Like, what kind of impacts could it have on them? So these are all the type of things that you want to think about. And lastly, it's important to consider the other side of the coin. What would partial success look like and bring about an attempt or just partial try? You never know. Maybe it could bring about new skills. Maybe it could bring about more confidence, even potentially more income. So you want to make sure that you look at both sides of the coin, because so often we catch ourselves getting kind of trapped into the fear or the short end of the stick. So as we put our fears under a microscope, and fear setting is such a useful and powerful tool for us to do that, for us to understand and examine our fears so that we can A, better manage it, and B, be able to navigate it. And it can allow us to once again continue to move towards our dreams, to move towards our goals that we really are are fueled by and that really live inside of us, so that we can also live a more healthier and fulfilling life. Now, when it comes to the fear setting exercise, some of you might be familiar with it. So if you're already on the fear setting movement, or if you have another useful tool that you use to make sure that fear doesn't take over, I would love to hear you share in your thoughts in the comments below. Also, once again, be sure to subscribe, and don't forget, follow us on Instagram at Living Once Twice, or visit the Living Once Twice website for more updates. Thank you all again for your presence and tuning in today, reaching out to you all through the time and the space that separates us to say, remember, your dream life is waiting for you. It is time to go for it. You deserve it. Catch you later on Living Once Twice.